The last workshop, an event, we have seen a lot of people who are interested in developing business in environmental protecting industry. So, do you think it is feasible to start such business in Hong Kong? So many opportunities exist in ESG and recycling field. Do they got a high chance to succeed? So it seems that most the people choose not high. The next question is how to improve Hong Kong ESG and recycling environment policy in order to support the industry and entrepreneurs. Of course, we don't just help, we are trying to benefit all stakeholders. So it seems that most of them have chosen what do you think we need in the industry to accommodate the development? It seems that the choices is very disparate. So it seems that 33% of people choose the ecosystem enhancement by the government. So this probably become the biggest issue existing at the moment. Without further ado, let's invite Harold. Hi, everyone. Hi, everyone. I have seen some familiar faces here, and also new faces, of course. So, since you're here, I would like to know what would you like to hear from me? Of course, I will be talking about policy, but is there anything special that you're very interested to know? How to turn environmental protection into a business? How does it work? Last week, the starting up has been mentioned. So, of course, we will talk about it today as well. But any other question? Of course, I am in the recycling business. Let me have a disclaimer here. Could be a bit sensitive for what I'm talking about, as I'm a local business person, to see how Hong Kong's policy benefit the industry. Of course, I visited Macau and I have negotiation and discussion with Singapore and other Asian countries. So from a business angle, Hong Kong, I've been here for over so many years. So how does weight reduction affect the recycling business? Every time I present, I start with a picture like this. I'm sure everyone would think about recycling and see a picture like this in their head. It's very typical. Old lady pushing a cart full of cardboard boxes. It looks a bit sad when the stereotype looks like this. But they are the pillar of parts of the industry. I haven't delivered a talk for over a year. So within these 2 months, I have delivered talks for 3 times. The first talk was delayed by typhoon. It was about homelessness. So in here, we will talk about scavengers. Of course, the government has set a lot of recycling bins, but now they have been taken away. At that point, I wanted to bid a tender. I have a great idea. These 3 color bins, how about we just give the tender to these scavengers? Why would I think of that? Because the government give us the money, and if we have people, we hire people to do it, the efficiency will be low. And we have seen a lot of scavengers on the street. Then why not we are asking, if we ask them to do it? And they can also make money as well. And also, they can actually conduct processing as well, filtering as well, such as, give you one example, if they put food or lunch boxes that were food in recycling, then they can actually manage to clear it and clean it. And the labor market actually make it very hard to deliver such goal. But the same industry and the same condition is being conducted, is actually happening in Europe and the UK. Of course, that's about the policy. Today, I'm not going to just talk about policy, but it's something that definitely will be mentioned. So today, our industry, for waste paper recycling from scavengers, the share is around 20%. If we don't have them, it's about whether Hong Kong is a sustainable city. Do you think Hong Kong is a sustainable city? I see people shaking their head. sustainable means it can go on. What does that mean to be going on? To be sustaining. By definition, it's not just about environmental protection, but also economy and the society. Not sure if you take any notice of the UN 17 Sustainable Development Goals. But do you know what is the first goal of it? The first goal is to alleviate poverty. Why is poverty related to sustainability? In Hong Kong, when people put an equal between scavenger and poverty, it makes me upset. You know what? When I go to Macau or Singapore, I don't see old people or scavenger on the street like that in Hong Kong. So the first goal is to alleviate poverty. When connecting environmental protection policy and poverty, it's a typical move. You will see waste paper recycling. There's the lowest price for it. Now it's around 1.5 Hong Kong dollar. This morning I've seen recycling truck, and there's old granny delivering the paper, and she could got around $1 per kg. So this is under the subsidy of the government, so that the price can go up to around $1 per kg. So if you see these, if you look at the news, you see that the government of China has banned the waste paper import. And of course, Hong Kong, Macau have to sort out the problem of these pulping milk or import. So that's why we have established pulp milk. And the pricing is around 1,200 per ton. Of course, we collect $1. We give these old lady $1 to acquire their papers, and then we sell it to they will sell it for $1.3, $1.4. And of course, if we are actually taking these acquisition into our hand, we probably wouldn't be able to offer this kind of pricing directly to the scavengers. The government really wants to sustain the pricing for the scavengers, but we have no idea how the government is going to sort this out or sustaining the idea and the goal. If the scavengers are not working, then you will see Hong Kong being surrounded or submerged by paper. Do you remember 2018? At that point, all the waste paper recycling bin banned collecting waste paper for 3 days. Because at that point, they banned the waste, and the recycling business actually initiated some action to negotiate with the mainland. So therefore, they have started a move by not collecting waste paper for 3 days, which is shown on the PowerPoint. So you will see that this is Hong Kong. This is called as China's earthquake. You probably have heard 24 herbs as a herbal tea in Hong Kong, and the government of China at that point has given our a 24 items of list, talked about what would be banned. And also for imported waste. And it is required, it's stipulated that the waste should not be having higher than 0.05% of impurities. Previously it was 0.2, but now it's 0.05, which is quite impossible to achieve this goal. So you see nowadays all the boxes, there will be stickers, different sorts of packaging material. It's very hard to actually contain the impurity percentage to 0.05. And in previously all the waste were collected, had been sent to Southeast Asia as well when China couldn't take it. And later on, the inclusion of waste plastic in Basel Convention happened in 2021. And because of that, the licensing was required. So that only with the license, a business can conduct import. And you can see as well, I've mentioned previously, in 2021, the ban of waste paper was introduced by China, the ban of waste paper import. Of course, because at that point that Macau actually had limited capacity to set up a pulp factory, a pulp mill. They have discussed about actually sending all the pulp to Hong Kong, waste paper to Hong Kong, and then we deliver it. But the real operation was very difficult, and now I'm not too clear about the status at the moment. So you see there's a price fluctuation in waste paper. So from 2017 November, it was 30 cents per kg. In March of 2018 is 0.60 cents per kg. And later on, in 2018 November, is $1.2 per kg. In 2019 January, was 50 cents per kg. So you see the fluctuation between different levels. Why is it so fluctuated? I've always talked about being in recycling. You will have there are two characteristics for this recycling industry. It's a very local business, but facing global challenge. As you understand, one country's policy changing can affect the world's business. For example, like China as the biggest waste importer. Once China banned all the waste import, it actually changed the whole world's business model for recycling industry. And of course, waste price. It is actually a commodity market for that. It's like gold. Because gold, and oil as well, they are the share price among the whole world. And so as for waste as well. And we're talking about the acquisition price, the price would be similar around. I'm not talking about the shipping cost. Therefore, we do follow the market trend of the globe to make adjustment accordingly. And of course, all these is actually in the recycling industry is also a commercial practice, which is easily influenced by government policy. In Hong Kong, if you export waste paper, there will be subsidy. You can look at this figure, this chart. In the chart is only up to 2021. If you Google online, you will be able to see until 2023. Why do I have to show you 2021? If you see per capita disposal rates in Hong Kong, if you look at the graph at the bottom right, you see in Tokyo, per person is 0.0 kg, in Seoul is 0.95 kg, in Taiwan is 1 kg, and we are Hong Konger, double of Tokyo's disposal rate per capita. And you can see the rising trend was happening during the pandemic as well. Why pandemic made the waste increment? I have seen a waste audit report. In 2025, the waste has a rapid increase. Do you know why? Because all the takeaway services, delivery app, it's most likely because of the consumption habits. So you see a lot of take-out boxes from different restaurants. And Foodpanda delivery are always making promotion for people. So they actually attract a lot of people to consume, which has greatly increased the waste level in Hong Kong. Of course, I would have to compare to other countries, but thinking about what we're doing right now, it is quite scary. And second one is the waste composition. So you can see the ratio here. Food waste is always taking the first place. Before 2021, paper is number 2, but in 2021, paper has become number 3 because plastic rose to number 2. So what can government do? Of course, the first one is municipal solid waste charging and also producers' responsibility. Also, we can think about policy schemes on disposal plastic tableware. Right now, Hong Kong has banned all the plastic tableware. Everything has to be made by paper. And of course, a very different procurement policy, such as the government can can actually procure more recycling business when they are purchasing products. And of course, a recycling fund and paper export subsidy. Let's talk about producer responsibility. The first is plastic. When it comes to plastic bags, you know that you will have to pay to get a plastic bag. And also, some of the electronic products do have the inclusion of fee of recycling such products, such as computer, any digital devices, printers. And these electronic waste is not a big problem in Hong Kong. But why do we have to do this recycling for electronic and electrical products? Why do we? Is it because there are people who are stealing high-value parts? This recycling scheme don't really have is electrical and electronic because they were all exported back to the mainland. In 2016, a U.S. environmental protection organization traced back these electrical waste. So they put a chip in these electrical waste, and over 25% of the electrical waste were sent to Hong Kong and then being sent to other places. So Hong Kong is actually an export hub for electrical waste. Do you know that these import and export require license? Electrical waste was included in the Basel Basel Convention.
新聞界揾政府揾咧，政府當時答嘅答案咧就係零，冇申請過進口嘅廢料，亦都冇申請過出口嘅廢料嘅 license。咁嗰啲點樣入嚟啊？
So we have verified with the government that they have confirmed that they have not actually give out any license, which means that all these import and export were actually using other ways to be imported. Which means that the government did not give enough supervision when it comes to these licensing system. Previously, there were two businesses actually participating in the recycling of electrical waste. And the third part is glasses. Wine glasses, beer glasses. There's $1 for each bottle of tax for recycling. But I'm not sure about the recycling rate in Hong Kong. In Hong Kong, not a lot of people recycle glasses. I think it's around 10s of 20%. I'm not too sure. At that point, I was actually having a very intense discussion with the EDP. They actually divided this bill into 3 areas, and I told them how it would not be ineffective. And I've also proposed that they invite these scavengers to help pick up glasses, glass bottles. It will help a lot. And also, some of the area they would acquire these transparent glasses bottle for other products like thinners. So that's why the whole policy or the whole bill was quite ineffective when it comes to actual implementation. In 2015, not sure, or 2016. At that point, Mr. Rong had mentioned there would not be a problem with all these waste paper. And the first issue has raised is iron was actually less than paper in value. So you know, environment eco park. There's an organization called 仁愛堂. At that point, had set up a demonstration unit, and they set up a factory. Eventually, they have kind of pushed out other business to exist. And of course, because of all these competitivity and priority of good plastic was given to 仁愛堂. So if I am a plastic recycler, I'm not going to be happy with all these benefits they're getting. But this organization, 仁愛堂, has taken quite a bit of advantage, which made it very difficult for other business to survive. That's why this is one of the examples that the government is not having any clear idea of the industry. And also we have initiated another initiative, that is drink beverage. Previously, drink beverage were not something that they were noticing about, but now we have milk. At that point, we mentioned it, and the government replied. The government replied saying that the fact that they're not recycling drink beverages because these plastic recyclers would not want to be touching upon other areas of recycling. Because, and actually, the drink beverage carton recycling is actually inspired by the glass bottle recycling as well. In the point of view of a business person, so producer's responsibility scheme is more like a tax for these business. That's why for business people, calculation is the best thing they can do, right? And so you can see this experience from Taiwan. Within 10 years, they have reduced their disposal rate more than 65%. And I think Hong Kong should take reference from Taiwan with MSW, Municipal Solid Waste Charging Scheme. But Hong Kong is not going to implement it anytime soon. So I'll give you one example from Hong Kong McDonald. At that point, McDonald, when the government was trying to implement NSW charging, McDonald has initiated an idea whether they collect these paper cups for recycling, but eventually the charging scheme was not implemented, and this has disappeared as well, the implementation and the experiment. The business responded as well since the government announced the postponement of MSW charging. They have seen the sharp drop in the recycling rate. 商界度先做垃圾收費咧，咁呢個係當時已經其實環團提過出嚟嘅。Actually, some of the environmental protection NGO initiate that if they can't start with the residential target, then they can start with the business, right? But of course, that has gone nowhere. If you look at Taiwan's experience, there are 14 items of products that would be producers' responsibility. And Taiwan has a recycling fund as well. Because do you know how Hong Kong's recycling fund works? It is a matching fund, which means that if you have $1, the government will give you $1 for your investment and your operation. Of course, when the economy is good, without the government, we will still do it. But when the economy is not doing well, it's hard to do it. So for Taiwan, it doesn't work that way. It is more on warrant at that point. So they are giving these ratio to the industry. And because in Hong Kong, the government has refused subsidy. The business in Hong Kong would think, why would you have to subsidize me instead of giving me the space to actually charge a service fee? In a way, they take it as an insult in the industry, and I don't like the idea of subsidizing. In Taiwan, is according to the market. Of course, they have this charging scheme, and also the producer's responsibility scheme. They would be basing on the global market price, and actually distribute these money to recycler or producer. Without this policy, usually waste paper are with same price. European has the highest pricing when it comes to recycling. And they have to ensure these big corporate are conducting and implementing these recycling schemes. So you see, recycling business in other country would actually be able to make a living, would have an income source of service fee. Actually, I missed out a question previously. Last Sunday, my friend told me excitedly, a kid is very around 20-something-year-old young person is very excited to start a business. He's running a hotel with replacing all the TV and all the furniture, over hundreds of rooms. And the young person will, I'll give you everything, you help me dispose all these old facilities. So, what do you think if someone mentioned a business opportunity like that to you? You can let me know at the end of the talk. So, for the appeal of recycling, why do we have to do recycling? Of course, it's definitely the economy factor. But the appeals really heavily relies on and depends on the acceptance of recycled product in the society, especially in Hong Kong. In Europe, recycling pricing is a lot higher, but in Hong Kong, it doesn't work this way. And of course, the appeal of recycling can help. Waste production is one of the appeal of it. So if we reduce waste, it will actually. EU has done a research. The recycling rate is related to environmental awareness. So the EU study actually showed that a higher environmental awareness is the most crucial prerequisite for increased collection rates. And this is a research outcome from the EU. So this example is from the Netherlands. You see, they are at the forefront of recycling. In the Netherlands, they can even recycle toilet paper. And they will use recycled paper to actually pave the path. I'm sure you have heard about the circular economy. With circular economy, reducing waste is very important. Of course, reducing the emission as well. Why is it so important for cycling or circular economy? If you use recycled paper, there would be 33% less energy usage, and you see 37% less of carbon footprint. There will be 49% or less water usage, and also 39% of solid waste. Last but not least, there will be less chemical waste and usage. So to actually implement this circular economy, of course, we would need to have different parts. There will be designs, material science, supply chain, and behavioral science. Recycling business is a network. It does really rely on different parts of the industry to connect the whole industry for it to work. If we only rely on 3 big companies, I don't see how it would actually work well with the network we have right now. 呢度可以講少少嘅就係，大家知道咧，新加坡咧，我唔知道新加坡點做回收嘅。How Singapore conduct the recycling? They have one bin for everything: paper, glass bottle, etc. We call it single stream recycling, which is the same in the US, Canada. They put everything in the same bin. Later on, they will be distributed in Neufra. But in Japan and Europe, they like to actually categorize all the items. So when I was in the Netherlands, there are 3 different types of glass or bottle recycling. I see. When I stayed in the Netherlands for a while, I've seen people that actually hoggling all the bottles, going for 2 blocks just to categorize, to put them into recycling in the specific categories. So that's why I want you to understand the stream of the single stream and multiple stream. If we have to implement waste reduction, single stream would be easy to fail, because for multiple stream it's easy to succeed because that will change people's behavior. I'm sure you have been to some of the recycling organizations in Hong Kong. Let's just talk about plastic today. Previously, there was no categorization in plastics. They don't try to separate different types of plastic previously. Right now, I have seen that a lot of people having trouble with actually identifying, separating these plastic bottles, which means that if these are collected and they can't be used, most of them will be thrown away or sent to other countries. So how would the government want to handle these different types of plastics? I don't think the government has mentioned anything, but of course, from our point of view, from the industry, of course, we see that they will be burnt eventually. Of course, we don't call it as incinerator. We actually make it into, we call it energy conversion. Why do we have such label? Because this will actually help calculating the carbon emission, where you produce energy and at the same time you do, but the number of carbon footprints still lower than it should. Of course, some of the random plastic or uncategorized plastic will be burnt. Some from plastic number 1 or 2, they could be collected for recycling. This is a global circularity matrix 2025. So you see the number of cycled materials and materials output is equal to 6.9%.
其實又係一個疫情底下，全球嗰個所謂嘅我哋嗰個同埋改變咗，而令到咧真係更多嘅垃圾出咗嚟。
During the pandemic, it was dropped from 9 point something.
衞生嘅問題啦，咁啊用多咗口罩啊，用多咗即棄啊，就算無論去呢個醫院都多咗即棄嘅。
It was raised to 9 point something because of pandemic, and which increased a lot of disposal use and packages. So during pandemic, the whole waste rate on the globe was increased. And circular economy is truly meaningful because it can actually help to reduce carbon emissions by 40% globally. This is all I would like to share. Previously, I don't want to prepare PowerPoint, but just to keep myself on track. So let's go back to the question. At that point, previous question of that hotel waste disposal of over 100 TV, would you do it? I wouldn't do it because I don't have any plan to sort out and to develop into further. If there's no other part after this acquisition of waste, it means that there's no business chain in the industry. That means that actually these waste will stop in the industry, or I will have to throw that away. With a large number of waste or products or commodity, if you say, is not easy to get out of hand as a business person. So I'm sure that you all think it's not too good to actually pick up a business or start business by, from the hotel renovation. Of course, you see here we have all professionals from all different industry. I have contacts from a lot of field as well. For example, they are developers, property developers, in which they have contacted me to talk about construction waste that they would like to set up a collaboration where we handle the construction waste. So you see right now, when it comes to recycling business, having these commodity doesn't mean that you're making money. Sometimes it could become a trouble as well. But you may say, second-hand TV do have their own price. Yes, if there are people who buy it. So let me tell you what I told them. So there's a lot of TV. How would you handle that? Do you have to do it yourself, one by one? And you think about all the work that you will have to provide by collecting a TV room by room and furniture as well. And think about hotel furnitures. They are not really suitable for any normal household uses or normal family. As you know, Hong Kong people mostly live in limited space. So you see, for recycling business, doesn't just start somewhere. You have to have a lot of preparation. Think it through, how it can work, how it should be working. If you don't know how we can handle the business, you would actually experience a great loss running or being in the industry. So please don't think that people giving you all these ways that you would definitely make money from it. From the whole mechanism, we are exploiting these scavengers. So when the recycling paper recycler went on strike, I have seen the scavengers standing next to the paper waste recycling bin. That an old lady spent around 4 days just to do all the recycling. So you see, they actually have to spend a lot of time. It's very time consuming for these scavengers. You see, we are actually scavengers because we kind of have to make them to produce and actually process these waste and then for further process. So that's why I'm trying to tell all of you that it is very, very sensible that we are charging a service fee. So when I started my business, I thought about doing my business in Macau, in Singapore, where we can actually make some money, but in Hong Kong, no. I am, to be honest, with innovative technology, I am not considering Hong Kong for any further development. And this is the end for my sharing. I hope that you enjoyed it. So can I initiate more interaction among you? So can you actually, let's form a group of 2 or 3, discuss about what you have just talked about, what you have just heard, what is your idea between. have just walked past two different tables and I've heard some of great ideas. Can we have every group to share your ideas with us? So let's start from this one. They look like they're in the property management. I'm in property management. Thanks for sharing all the difficulties you experience, and I understand that the fact that you want to develop somewhere else, not in Hong Kong. And I actually helped one teacher before, one lecturer at Ivy. He specialized in tree recycling. I actually seen there are a lot of people who are passionate about recycling and who are willing to contribute in the industry. Sorry to correct, it's from a professor from PolyU. So we have shared that we want to see what we can do to actually make Hong Kong a better environment for that. So in our group, we have this gentleman who are in recycling industry. The products produced are related to construction, but there are lots of red tapes when it comes to proving the safety, and all these are related to civil engineering, probably require. Let me explain it myself, actually. So my experience is that in 2003, I was doing tire recycling. Later on, the business failed. Later on, I had an idea. The whole thing is a business. Where's money from? Where money goes. The whole business consideration is that the product become a raw material. We will need a new technology or innovation for that to make it sustainable. If the products from the recycling can become something with market value, then it will become a business. It can turn into industry. To encourage innovation, new products, then it can better the whole industry. That doesn't just encourage Hong Kong, but also around the world. Why can't Hong Kong government didn't encourage? Because we do have a department called Environmental Protection Department, which actually give a lot of red tapes, probably hurdles for business. But this is a business, and they are using a different angle to think about business from the EDP. You know, the government's function is to settle these disputes or hurdles. How can we sort out different parts of the industry.
single stream 又好 multi stream 又好，乜嘢 stream 都係得嘅。點解唔做咧？呢啲有幾困難咧？有幾多？有幾？There
are things that government can do, like single stream recycling, multiple stream recycling. The government do have the power to do it, but we don't see the action. We haven't seen the action yet.
我03年嘅時候，我講過俾你手中聽嘅，即係呢個 policy 呢個諗法係一個 complete cycle 嚟嘅。你唔使同我講咗咩減費啊諸如此類啦，呢啲係 icing on the cake 嘅啫。真正係一個商業嚟嘅，呢件事係變成係可以將個環保變成一個產業。香港點解冇工業？啲人講嚟講去點解冇？
Why is environmental protection hasn't turned into business in Hong Kong? Because Hong Kong hasn't developed up to that point that while it is in other country has become an industry, right? So this is some of the idea of mine here. So for the next group, I know that they have a lot of different spectacular ideas as well. Feel free to share with us. We talked about 2-3 topics. The TVs, we talked about the viability of collecting all the electrical products. We talk about the scavengers issue. How can we help them? How can we do that? How can we sustain their life, making them sure while they are actually an important part in the industry? We also talked about last. So we have also talked about the certification of scavenger as well, whether we should actually give license to scavengers so that they can do their thing. Thank you very much for your ideas. So what about the two here? We have shared the development of environmental protection industry. Of course, we have very limited space and high rent, and this already become a big hurdle for us to start a business, let alone a business in environmental protection or helping the environment. Yeah. See, professor and another startup founder do have something to share. So let's professor. So wherever you call me professor, it actually stresses me out. Yeah, I do teach. I have 2 observations, 1 question. The 2 observations are it's actually from Harrods. Recycling is a chain from collecting all these waste and then we export it to different places. You see, each parts are connected to each other. Because it's a chain, it shouldn't be broken. If there are broken parts in this chain, of course, it won't work like that. We need to ensure each part is operating well, and I definitely agree with that. And from another angle, starting from Scavengers, where I live, there's a recycling shop close to mine. I see a lot of elders who send these waste to recycling shops. This is, if we call it as the starting of the recycling chain. You think about the cost that's spent on actually building EPOC. Which means that think about all the costs that we have to invest in. It will be high in recycling. This is not something economical in Hong Kong. Probably not that easily feasible as well, because in a limited space, you will have to put in different bins to actually separate different types of recycled products. From the economic point of view, it doesn't work. For individual recycling, it's not going to work in terms of economy. But of course, if you have a set of value that you advocate, the environment, loving the environment, then we should. And I believe that the government will encourage us to do it. If we all have the same idea, the same determination, government's help, government's promotion, then it will work. Of course, but if the government is not encouraging, that which probably lower your motivation to be passionate about recycling as well. So you see, all the stakeholders are very important, and everyone needs to be participating in the recycling for it to work. You're right, it's hard to make money, but in this society, it's not always about making money. So you think about, there's a lot of things that should be done, like doctors, nurses. They have to do their work 24/7. They have to attend to their duties. There are things in the society where people are willing to do, and it's not about money. If we all having this idea, that will work differently. So, forming a social group is necessary. It's actually having a group to actually promote, to motivate the recycling in Hong Kong. If recycling has formed a social group that it's hard to actually exclude. It's hard for the government to exclude themselves from joining or participating into the group. Can we actually do a group photo first? After the group photo, then we will continue to Q&A session. Thank you very much for everyone. So Harold, let Harold respond first to all the ideas. Let me answer, Professor. A lot of waste paper are collected by recycling bin instead of scavengers. If you are from the property management, they will go find a company handle all the recycling for the recycling bins. Of course, they have to pay a fee. So around 70 to 80% of the waste paper has gone through these channels, and the other 20% is probably from citizens that own individual waste. And nowadays, cleaners don't really want to make extra money from all these wastes as well, probably because of the minimum wage. So they don't feel like they need to kind of secure a better base salary there. Of course, recycling is not really about money. It's about esteem as well. For me, scavengers are heroes in Hong Kong because for them it's not about money. They actually earn an esteem by actually collecting these waste, selling it, and they need this money to survive. For us, we see an experiment in Tianjin, there are a lot cleaner helping with these plastic bottles. For cleaners, if they think, and they don't actually make more money from collecting these plastic bottles, but they were very happy for doing so because they think it was meaningful. It's an atmosphere of making a better society. So as you see the statement that I showed, EU has showed, a study has showed that the awareness is making the high recycling rates. If you only talk about money, using money as the main idea, what do you think about licensing, actually having licensing to these workers? the idea of licensing for irons, for scrap metals, and for waste paper. Oh, by putting on the price, I mean it's like it's having unified prices. But I mentioned earlier, waste paper price is actually the waste paper share price among the whole world. That is already the price that we are following. But of course, you think about throughout all these different parts, because all the procedure, all the handling that require extra services. But how can we ensure everyone is making money?
而家香港嘅大陸嘅紙廠我用得嗱，當大陸以前我哋都遇到個問題，大陸嘅紙廠賣美費靚過港費，平過港費。我哋成日以為我哋由香港運去東南亞嘅運費係平嘅，但係原來唔係喎。原來咧美國嘅、歐洲嘅運費原來平過我哋喺亞洲區嘅運費嘅喎，因為啲工廠去出口晒啲產品去美國、歐洲，跟住佢哋係吉櫃翻嚟，咁擺廢料咧，基本上係一個象徵式收費嘅。咁好啦，人哋嗰邊收費咧又有服務費嘅喎，咁你話價錢全世界都係個半人錢，然之後人哋有好多優惠。
For waste, we have a share price among the world. But in Hong Kong, we don't have any advantages by just adding the prices, because we are not going to make the lost money back. And that's why I'm saying that this is quite limited. But you see, with the economy slowing down, the margin for making profit will narrow down as well. So it gives us a very limited space. In recycling business, I would never tell people that I'm in such business. I will always tell people I'm a buyer for scraps. It's almost like the genie. Because in Aladdin, the master actually got that magic lamp from collecting scraps. So if you're thinking about buy and sell just to make the profit from the margin, is it really the sustainability in our world, or is it something that we are aiming to achieve? And that really requires the policy to assist us to build a better industry. Any further questions? Because I'm not in the industry, I'm not in business, I'm just a normal civilian. You have focused on talking about waste paper. There are different parts of the industry. For me, using a business model to promote environmental protection but at the same time, being nice to our environment is our social responsibility as well. So from my point of view, I think the government has done well, but I'm not sure. I think the government has done well with collecting the food waste. Why would you think food waste collection is implemented well? Is it because where you live? You probably live in a fancy neighborhood, or you have a good property manager that helps you. Of course, government policy is very important. We can't just use a business model and thinking about the revenue to judge whether it is something that should be done. Let me tell you something. I mentioned recycling is definitely a business behavior with government's policy. Without the policy, we are just using business model to run the industry. It won't work. Let me tell you this. The government sets up local recycler is actually an insult to all our recycler. For us, we are only spending thousands, but the government would spend over 10,000 to process the recycled items they collected.
政府做嘅話咧，嗰個 efficiency 好低嘅。你頭先講緊講緊廚餘咧，香港廚餘回收咧，即係一個好細嘅，細到非常之。
Hong Kong food waste recycling is a very, very low ratio, probably single digit. You think it has done well is because of the environment where you live, where you're in. I don't think it's done well. I think it's bad. There are lots of reasons, of course, and that could be discussed. But is the government really providing the best effective way to actually implement or being environmental friendly? So what the government needs to do is to make it a big share, make it a bigger space where the business can enter, can get involved. Because business people know how to work with the numbers. They know how they can manage, they can arrange to make it work. Getting business involved is not about profit making, because we have to think about efficiency as well, because if only implementing by the government, the efficiency wouldn't be like how business industry work. Make sure 嗰樣嘢成個程序公正跟住because for governments working, they have to worry about different stakeholders, but business is a different set of considerations. 鹿仔入去鹿仔人嘅心態同當日鹿仔去啲所謂北站或者去前制啲回收街站嘅人心態兩回事嚟嘅喎，呢個又係改變緊，即係大家諗下啦，我做生意嘅話，你個鹿仔如果嚟到奄尖聲悶，我都可以government recycler。但係而家鹿仔究竟係咪養咗一班，即係嗰啲人係咪改變緊佢哋嘅行為咧？我唔同意。Recycler。係咯，你都唔係。I think the government has actually implemented quite a bit of plans, ideas, but are they really doing their best for us? Of course, I agree for the fact that there's a lot of things the government can do, but are they really doing their best in there? I would say, I will put a question mark on it. I think it will work if we are taking this sort of idea. Can I ask you a question? Originally, I have a question for you. Originally, when you recycle your food waste, is it with the plastic bag? Originally not, but now it is. That actually creates another problem already.
黑水膜係啦，但係而家 O-Park 唔係做緊呢一個技術，佢最後咧都私底下將呢啲發酵咗嘅廚餘咧係問過啲農友，同埋問翻黑水膜呢間廠去處理，係最後冇出路。
So let me tell you this. I can give you some truth on this food waste policy. There are people who are actually handling this food waste, but there's some of the food waste eventually were not processed and were sent to landfill. So this is the idea. So as Professor mentioned, recycling is a chain. If recycling is a chain,
supply chain 嘅環節啦，我都叫做有啲研究啦嚇，即係我唔敢謙虛啦，即係如果香港講垃圾回收頭嗰10年。
Well, I would say I have some knowledge in the industry. You see, paper waste is one of the examples, but you see that is applied to different types of recycling products, items. But you have to understand different parts do need that space to survive. Logistic, they need money to survive. For processing, with all these facilities, everything is a high investment. So you think about food waste, recycling, with all these investment is over billions of dollars. You just think behind the operation, everything is money. Do you think the government is doing their best by actually distributing money to different parts? Is it the best way and most efficient way? This is my question. I agree that the government should get involved, but how should they get involved? Which relies on further negotiation and discussion.